All right, hello everyone. Thanks for joining our latest community call. We're joined by a couple community members and Ryan and Katya. We'll be going over points of interest today and hearing from the experience of our community members. Leif, do you want to get started?
Yeah, I think we're gonna first start with Pink Sky Capital.
Oh.
Our guests here. They're based in Nashville. So thanks guys for joining. And they're gonna go over some tutorial aspects of the current map and announce one of their local contests they're starting.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, everybody. We're excited to be here. Myself and Mitch are part of Pink Sky Capital. We're a blockchain-focused investment fund out of Vegas, and we also work with a bunch of other companies in Vegas, from anywhere from a consultant to security, blockchain security company to community management companies and things like that. And everybody that we work with is really excited about Foam and the fact that people are already actively started to use it. We really like the proof of use aspect of it. And so to really hunt on the Foam map, because we thought that would be fun. We placed a envelope in Vegas somewhere with seed words on it with $50 worth of Ethereum in it. And we're hoping somebody stops by and scoops it up when we place a POI on the map showing people where it is. So Mitra now is going to just show a little bit about how we interact with the Foam map, what features that we've been using and how we've been using them, and some tricks that we've been using to make everything go smoothly, as well as place a POI on our treasure where you can go find it. So Mitra can show you that now.
Hey everybody, I'm gonna share my screen so that you can see what I'm doing. But briefly, I'm just going to interact with the Foam map in a couple of different ways, ways that we have interacted with it so far. And hopefully that will be interesting and slightly informative to everyone. So let me share my screen first. So this is the Foam map. Currently I am zoomed in on a location that I will be adding to the map as a POI here shortly. I wanted to leave it as mysterious as possible where the location is, so that you have to actually go to the Foam map and search for it and find out where it is yourself. But there probably will be some clues as to where it's placed, as you'll see here in a moment. The first step to adding a POI is to go to map.foam.space and click on the map and register a new point of interest, which we're going to do here. And I'm just going to fill in some of the locations here and set up this new POI. And this POI is, as you'll see, where we have hidden a envelope with a private key to an Ethereum wallet that has some Ethereum in it. And the only way to find it is to go to map.foam.space and find it. So hopefully that'll be fun.
There's some stickers in there too as a bonus.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about interacting with Foam so far for me has been how fun it's been, and we thought that it would be even more fun to add a twist and put something other than maybe your traditional POI on the map. So far, we've been adding things like casinos and the Hoover Dam and different places where people might congregate, some of our favorite restaurants. But currently my MetaMask is just loading right now to confirm this transaction.
My favorite POI so far on Foam Space has been the Rickroll in San Francisco. So whoever did that, well done.
Okay, this will just take another 10 seconds or so, and Now it's going to wait for the transaction to get approved on the blockchain. I actually didn't adjust the gas at all, so it might take longer than expected. So we might just go ahead and do a couple other points of interest while we wait for it, and then we'll come back and see if it's there. We wanted to update one of our POIs that we added previously that had gone through its 3-day period while community members can see if it matches the criteria to be a POI, and we're just going to update the status on this. It's really simple. This is the M Resort. It's a casino in Las Vegas, and we staked 50 foam here, and we're just going to update it.
And one thing to make sure here is this updating process should only cost you around between 10 and 15. Or, never mind.
Yeah, it should. It should cost minimal gas. It might, in MetaMask, it might say that it costs a little bit more, but that's just the high end of what it might cost. And in almost every circumstance, it's going to cost somewhere around 10 to 15 cents in gas.
Yeah, just as a note, what MetaMask previews you is like the maximum gas limit that ever could be consumed. But if you go look into the transactions, that's not how much gas actually winds up getting used.
So it was as simple as just clicking a few buttons there to update the POI from pending to verified. And once it gets picked up by the blockchain, it will be verified, and this blue dot will turn to a green dot. So we'll also come back to that in a minute, so we don't keep everybody waiting for the blockchain, which should take about a minute or so. The last thing that we wanted to do, which is one of the more fun aspects of interacting with the foam map, is challenging. Let's get off of this and find a POI that's currently being challenged. Challenging happens when the community finds a POI that it doesn't think is legitimate, thinks something is wrong with it, doesn't have enough information, is a duplicate, anything could be a reason to challenge.
So this is an interesting one because the reason this is being challenged is because it has less information and has some very slightly wrong information and is in slightly the wrong place, or not the optimal place, I guess. And this is something that people have been discussing on the foam community board a little bit, is how the community is going to react to duplicates. And I think part of the idea of Foam Space is that it is a wisdom of the crowd type platform. So in our opinion, this POI should be removed. So we're going to vote that it should be removed. I don't know if that's what people will decide in the end. Maybe duplicates will remain on the map or something like that. But for us, we're going to vote for this to get removed.
So you can see here that there's actually 3 locations here that all say that they're UCLA in some form or another. I haven't looked at the 2 green dots, which have both been verified. There's currently an orange dot that is currently being challenged. And if you click on it, you can see the reason for it being challenged, and the person who originally challenged it said that it's a duplicate entry and that the other POIs that are currently on the map have more information and a fuller title. And that is true. Like, you can see here that the description is just University of California, Los Angeles. And the other ones are, they have just a little bit more information. They might have existed prior to this one popping up and therefore have some more of a claim to be the correct POI. This is all, just the community's opinion on what the correct POI should be. So it's a democratic system here, but we're just going to challenge this current proof of this current point of interest by clicking on the orange dot, clicking vote on UCLA. Your screen will pop up with one of the cards down here, and it's going to ask you whether you want to support it or oppose it. We are going to support the challenge, saying that this POI is not valid for the reasons that it is a duplicate and the other POIs have more information. The amount that we're going to stake is, we're just going to choose 50, and we're going to commit this and cast the vote. This is going to bring up a MetaMask notification, which we will go ahead and process. I don't think that you're going to be able to see it just because I'm sharing only my browser window right now, but we're just going to confirm it.
So I think a lot of people that are watching right now probably are familiar with MetaMask, and you're probably crypto enthusiasts. But if somebody does watch this later on YouTube or something, the piece of advice I would give them is not to be scared of MetaMask or interacting with crypto. MetaMask has gotten super user-friendly recently, and it's really easy to use this. It's just a click of a few buttons. So don't be scared. Go just download MetaMask, put 20 bucks of Ethereum in there, and start playing around.
The last thing that you're going to want to do on when you challenge a POI is to copy the reveal phrase and save it somewhere. So that's the information that I've highlighted that you need to copy. I'm going to go ahead and just paste it in a text edit file and save that to my computer. And when the voting period ends, I will come back here and cast my vote. And that's going to happen here, as you can see, in 15 hours. So tomorrow, I will come back and cast my vote. We'll see what the community ends up doing.
I just wanted to jump in here about this salt phrase. We understand that that's a kind of cumbersome process to try to save this metadata and remember which transaction it's for. That's really just the way the partial lock commit reveal voting works. But we are part of a SALT UX working group with some other TCR projects and are looking into ways to make that simpler. The easiest way is have the browser store your cache of it. But if you used a different browser, then you wouldn't have it. Another way is looking to try to encrypt data into MetaMask. So we are aware that's kind of a friction point. That's just the way it works at the moment. It's something we're trying to work on.
Also just a tip and advice. Once you save this phrase, also leave some notes about the name of POI or the address of POI. So then, if you voted multiple times, then you can find those points and match the phrases.
Yeah, good information. So I think that we're going to try to just refresh and see if our POI hit or not. And it did. Nice. So we started with 1,030 foam earlier. We just added the POI for 50 foam, and you can see it here on the map. I'm not going to zoom out because I want you to find it yourself. But
click the card to open the description.
Yeah. So if you find this on the map, come find it. But here it is.
The race is on.
The first blockchain POI treasure.
Yeah,
that's a fun claim to fame to have. I like this. I'm enjoying this treasure hunt thing.
I'm gonna stop sharing screens now.
Great, guys. That was really amazing. Just overview of how easy it is to interact with the base level of the protocol, and hopefully we'll be adding more features and more complexities. But I want to turn it over now to cartographer and community member Leaf, who's been taking a really dedicated approach to kind of almost a ground truthing of making sure he's visiting the POIs he's adding, and he's going to speak to his experience and kind of thinking behind that. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you. So foam is really interesting because it kind of intersects a lot of my interests. So, I've always been interested in Bitcoin since 2011, and I'm also interested in sort of local history and also phenomenology and questions of time and space, but also narrative. So originally I was researching localized currencies, and I was looking for a protocol or a project that took like the idea of a localized currency on a blockchain, and I didn't find anything. But I threw out on Twitter, "Hey, are there any proof of location projects going on?" And that's how I came across Foam. So I participated in the token sale, and after that was complete, I decided like I'm going to actually go to all of the points of interest, and because I wanted to be able to basically connect like the real world in a way to the digital world and add a little bit of narrative to these static points of interest on a map and sort of give them some character. So that's what I did, and I've been promoting the Foam protocol, and I've also been trying to promote like the area I'm at. And so I live in Joplin, Missouri, which is sort of in the 4-state area, really close to Northwest Arkansas and Southeast Kansas and Northeast Oklahoma. And we have a lot of assets and a lot of attractions, and we have a lot to offer people coming through the area, but we don't have the resources of New York City, and we don't have all of the tourism. So Foam is sort of for me a way to introduce people to Route 66, to the area, and also the protocol. So I've been going to a lot of historical places. The static proof of location, I feel like if these points are going to persist very long, then the points that I add need to have some sort of permanence. So I've been hitting up like a unique bridge in Southeast Kansas. I've been hitting up different points along Route 66, a lot of national places on the National Historic Register of Historic Places. So I also, selfishly, I want to be able to defend, if any of my points get challenged, I want to be sort of an authority on, defending those points. So that's another reason that I've been recording everything. So, if there is a challenge, I can go to Twitter and say, "Hey, like everyone on Foam, please, support my point." So that's what I've been doing. I've done 5 videos. I'll go ahead and do 10 of those. If there's more later, then I will. If there's time after that, then I'll probably record some more. I would like to potentially get some signaling in the area, because ultimately, I'd like to do like a zone in the area, Northwest Arkansas or Southwest Missouri. But obviously that's down the road. So that's kind of what I've been doing, sort of introducing narrative and the real world into sort of this flat map.
That's really excellent, and thanks for sharing your approach. Is there anything else kind of motivating you to go about this beyond?
Well, it's a lot of fun, and my wife makes fun of me because, like, I'm paying to put these points on the map, and it's not like this thing where I get paid. But I enjoy introducing people to different places. The childhood home of Mickey Mantle, I added that point. If you haven't seen that, but it's a really cool place, and I'm also working on two Medium articles sort of related to Foam. One of them is like why narrative matters in GIS, and I sort of I've been doing some research into like a spatial story, and reading some of Michel Certeau, and I'll be doing an article on that, and then I'm doing another article on truth in space and time. It's really interesting, and I kind of don't understand. Like, I know that foam, we've been getting a lot of traction, but I see it as sort of a natural necessity. Like, if if you're going to build applications on top of Ethereum, if there are going to be supply chain applications. I'm about an hour from Walmart headquarters, and they are doing produce on the supply chain, on the blockchain. And doing that, like, a lot of projects will need a spatial aspect to them, and foam is just a natural fit for that. So I really excited about it, and I think it's going to gain a lot of traction.
Cool. Thanks for sharing your point of view. And yeah, that's definitely a lot of the conversation we've been seeing around the incentive or being paid directly. Doing that, I put in a recent blog post a lot of the kind of inverse incentives that is prone to being opened. We definitely think giveaways or contests are a good way to incentivize people, but definitely we think that this map will be a fundamental Web3 infrastructure when these kind of needs come to reference verified points, and that's really where the value add over time would be able to come from.
Oh, one question I had about challenging, like, I haven't actually done any challenges yet, but do you see, and I've noticed on the map that there's sort of been a drop off in challenging that I've noticed, but after the proof of use period, do you see a lot of people like pulling their points out, and then there will be actually more legitimate challenges if a problem arises, or is it just sort of a natural system?
I think your kind of intuition is correct that it'll be more natural, and we'll have this like organic growth and usage, especially as we start to see smart contracts deployed on the map or needing to reference them. And basically it'll start to pick up. And once you want to have your visibility and the ranking aspect is more built into the front end, there'll be other reasons for wanting to like stake more value to those points. And we've seen some conversations in the forum around like pooling stakes around like liking. So of course there's possibility that people may want to withdraw their tokens after fulfilling proof of use. But even if that's the case, we think longer term, it'll kind of filter out the people who actually want to build the value of that map.
And then Ryan, did you want to give an overview on the upcoming updates to the map and recent changes?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get that set up.
I'd also say I think part of the drop off in the challenges is that people are starting to get the hang of it and realize that you need to be careful about the information you're adding, and everyone's making sure they're getting everything correct.
Yeah, I'd say that's true. So if you guys can see my screen, I know that Katya had demoed this in kind of the UX framework in the previous community call, but this is currently running on our what we call Clickbait DreamNet. It's like a private Ethereum instance, and we'll be pushing this release to the mainnet tomorrow. So I just want to show how the new MyAsset card works. I don't have any points at the moment because this is on this testnet we just spun up. So it's getting a little bit more detailed or complicated, but here on this baseline, you're going to be able to see how much foam you have approved for both the registry and separately how much is in the voting contract. You'll be able to see how much foam you have eligible to be claimed from any voting rewards that you may have won. And then in more detail, you're getting an overview of how much foam is locked as voting credit, how much is unlocked, and then your general statistics. So including the new feature of being able to track pending points, your verified points, and your challenge points. So this card kind of expands, and it has two tabs, the registry tab and the voting tab. So here in the registry tab, you would be able to basically approve tokens to be registered in the registry as it works today. But then you have this kind of new counters, and you'll be able to see this list of rewards. And you'd be able to then, in this list card, be able to then track in detail those points. So that's kind of the new feature. And when it comes to voting, it's again more detailed. So we've separated. It's no longer just two MetaMask transactions for approval. You would actually separate approving registration and voting. And there you'll get a better understanding of where your tokens are in voting credits, how many are unlocked and locked. And this would then show the list of the points individually of where those tokens are locked. So hopefully this will help improve much better people having an understanding of where their tokens are. And we know that the voting contracts are a bit unintuitive in that you can use tokens in voting polls across different votes. So that's this kind of major release. We released a blog post today updating some more backend and front-end stuff that are more minor. This is kind of the major feature coming. And then probably the next noticeable one is going to be search. But for first, it's going to be just searching the base map. So you'll be able to search around the world and then see the POIs there. Full search for POIs will come after, but what will come after that and prior to the end of this proof of use period will be signaling. So I just wanted to give a brief overview of like kind of the work that's been done there as we're finalizing the smart contracts of signaling. And so signaling is meant to be a way to try to show where there's demand for testing out dynamic proof of location services, and ultimately will affect the mining rewards for these radios there. So where there's a higher signal, the rewards will be higher and spatially distributed. And so the incentive for basically signaling now is that you want to have large rewards there if you want it to be a miner, and there'll also be inflationary rewards for signaling that will be specified after testing. And so in this first generation of signaling contracts, you're essentially depositing foam into an area, not a point of interest, and you can basically specify how large your signal is and how much weight it'll have by how many tokens. And so just as an overview, there are kind of three contracts that we're working with. It's called the staking token, the crypto signal registry, and the foam signal factory. And through our work, we actually decided that a signal is going to itself be an NFT. An NFT is a non-fungible token. So we're using that ERC 721 basic standard so that when you're actually calling the signaling contract, what you're actually doing is also minting this NFT. And that NFT then is, in theory, could be traded in the future. And that's interesting economics to think about. That gives us that ability to do that. But in the meantime, it's just this kind of signal factory that prints out your NFT. And when you want to delete your signal, you're essentially burning the NFT. So we're utilizing those calls of the NFT. And similar to how in the crypto spatial coordinate, we propose like a registry to track smart contracts that claim a geospatial location, we're going to have this signal registry. That's just really the back end of how the contracts work. And so the signaling contract simply ties together this NFT that's being created in the registry and backs the foam tokens into it. So you're basically bonding foam tokens into this geolocation, and you're generating this signal. And so this is one of the things that people are waiting for to fulfill proof of use, especially for the large threshold of token usage. And so we'll publish this stuff in detail and show the front-end preview probably next week of how the actual visualization of the heat map works. But the architecture is that we have this registry tracking all the signals, and you're staking, calling the signal factory, and it's generating basically this NFT based off that structure. So that's kind of the overview of where we are with signaling. We're basically finalizing the contracts that can be audited and then integrating the heat map and the UI for how you actually add a signal. It'll be very similar to how you add a point. And so when you signal, they're basically tokens are never at risk. And that's a way to interact and bridge static and dynamic. And we'll be releasing more information about the dynamic proof of location research as we release signaling. So that's all I had to present there. I'm happy to open the floor to any questions or return the mic to anyone else on the call.
Yeah, I had a question. So how are you guys explaining foam to just like people on the street? Like they ask, do you go through like the whole blockchain spiel, or are you just like, hey, this is kind of like a GPS, GIS system? Because like, I have, people that have no idea what blockchain is. And, I struggle to kind of explain it to them. How do you, like, how are you guys explaining it?
I mean, it definitely depends on the context and kind of how much knowledge people have, because you don't want to slip into trying to explain foam, but instead you're telling them what a blockchain is. So if it's just someone completely on the street, I would mostly say it's just some like an alternative to Google Maps with more about open data or ownership of that. We're going tomorrow to Detroit, and we're sponsoring the State of the Maps conference. So if anyone is in that area, please come by. And there we'll be interacting with a lot of cartographers and OpenStreetMap users. And for there, they probably still would be pretty intimidated by any blockchain language, but they would really associate a lot with verification and validation issues. And that's a lot of the discussions they'll be having. So kind of the material and the marketing material we've produced for that conference is more around those kinds of bottlenecks they're facing, less on explaining the actual underlying technology. And ideally in the future, when there is an average user of the foam map, gas and kind of these cumbersome experiences can be abstracted away.
But also I would like to add that when we're thinking of the app, we're thinking about different user groups, and the interface is already designed that you can open the map and you can browse through the points. You can go to different places and you can find cool locations. If you're like in a new city. So for that purpose, you don't need to know about blockchain or Ethereum, and like you don't need foam tokens. Once the registry is like filled with interesting content, that people can just use it. So we have like different groups. Like one is like just a beginner group, which is like interesting to read the information and like find interesting places. The other group is more advanced that create point, and then the third group, which is cartographers, curators, is the most advanced group, which is maintaining the map by challenging and voting. So there are different levels that you can interact with the map.
So what does foam stand for, and how did you guys come up with the name?
It doesn't stand for anything. It comes from our first project, which was called Foam Space, which happened in early 2015, which is an architectural, temporary architecture we built as a competition, won by a museum here in New York. So it was a block party, basically, architecture, and we built it out of geofoam blocks, which are about 10 feet tall and are used under roadways and stadiums as like a landfill material. So we had like a physical blockchain taking over a full city block in New York City, and we airdropped tokens to everyone who came called Foam Space tokens using the Bitcoin blockchain at the time. This was before Ethereum had launched. And then we had a block sale, so we sold all the foam blocks back to the producers. So we then had this fund backing this community with tokens, and then we built another project called the Tropical Mining Station with that money, which is an inflatable bubble with miners on the outside. It's currently on display in a gallery in Berlin as part of a blockchain art show, but we did that in 2015, so the name has kind of stuck since then. You can read more about it at foamdao.space.
So I think the idea of using the NFTs is really interesting. I would love to hear if it's possible to have the POIs ever be an NFT, so you could potentially own or trade a single location. Like, let's say you're the one person who has the White House because you were the earliest or best POI. Is it technologically possible to have those be an NFT that you could then withdraw to your hardware wallet, or potentially, like Mickey Mantle's childhood house, maybe a fan would want to own that POI or something like that? Is that something that's possible?
Yeah, definitely. I think, of course, there's like research room where you could design an entire TCR where the candidates are themselves NFTs. That's like its own project, and I think it would require us launching a new registry, but alternatively, you could launch NFTs, smart contracts on top of the POIs and essentially like duplicate them and then be able to trade the ownership that way in some way. I'm sure you could make a TCR of NFTs. I don't think anyone's done that yet, but I'm not sure how it would work. But yeah, in theory, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. You guys are using NFTs. They're one of my favorite thought experiments in crypto right now. They open up a lot of very cool possibilities.
Yeah, so we definitely said this in the past, and it's not the top priority list, but we want to add NFT support to the spatial index. So if someone creates one with a CSC address, it would be able to show up on the map and potentially even be deployed on top of the POI. But then, yeah, the signals themselves as NFTs, it just opens these doors to that, you know, you could potentially be trading them between each other or something like that.
So since I'm not, I'm curious, I'm not in touch with the development of future foam things. I'm curious where it's going as far as the, are you going to have a mobile app eventually? Is this going to be strictly browser based in the future? Am I going to be able to sign into Foam, or are there going to be apps built on top of Foam on my phone? Is that something that is in the plans for you guys?
I mean, definitely that it's in the plans to have people build on top of Foam and build applications. So we're definitely eager to build these partnerships. We have a developer portal already. And if anyone has a project in mind that would be built on this protocol, like feel free to reach out or connect us. For us, we're basically fulfilling like all these features we've specified for this initial use period. So like the short-term roadmap for that is this My Asset card that's coming, search, the signaling functionality, and then the governance interfaces where those governance contracts are already deployed. So you can technically call them, but the interfaces aren't deployed. And then that's kind of like the release. That's like the TCR 1.0. I would say that I'm on Coinbase Wallet right now, and the app works really great in terms of these browsing. So I can select the Foam treasure hunt really, and you can also update really easily and use the bio face scan. So I just update some points benevolently sometimes for people. And definitely we would optimize this for mobile, so you can access the dashboard or do certain things, but I do have a balance of Foam tokens and I can deploy a point already. So definitely after this TCR 1.0 is frozen and released, we would definitely want to put resources on making it usable on the phone. And then, yeah, it's probably a different planning project for us of a TCR 2.0 and how that really would be built out over 2019. And we do have in our contract structure an upgrade path, something like AdChain TCR does not have. And that means that we can actually deploy a whole new registry, freeze the old registry, and people can vote as the token holders if that's what they want to switch to. So that is like definitely a possibility to have a fully different TCR with even a different voting contracts that are not as cumbersome, or new smart contracts, or making the points NFTs. So that's definitely all possibilities. But definitely we're looking to like freeze the app after we finish this kind of runway, and also divert resources into the dynamic proof relocation, and then hopefully a lot of developer community building, so we do get apps and mobile-based apps using Foam.
Awesome.
Well, I mean, we've hit about 40 minutes. I don't see any pending questions in the chat, but if anyone tuning in has any, feel free to post them. If not, I think this is a really great format, so I really appreciate all you guys' time who joined from outside the team.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your guys' insight and taking the time.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. It was really fun.
Very exciting. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks for everyone who joined, and we'll have this video posted soon on YouTube and post a recap.
Bye.
Bye.
Guys.